Wonderful. Hello and welcome, Nag. This is Kaveri Banzai from Open Magazine, and I just loved the film. I enjoyed every bit of it, and I wanted
Thank
to
you.
use as whatever time we have to understand the mind that can connect Mahabharat to all these wonderful Western movie inspirations as well. And I also wanted to say that, I've spoken at length with Rana as well, and I understand that mind that can, uh, you know, uh, celebrate Indian myths and the Western influences from Star Wars to, Transformers, Dune, whatever. But I wanted to hear
Yeah,
it from you. I wanted to understand what genius mind comes up with a movie like Kalki, and many congratulations, much deserved.
thank you. Thank you. Very, very kind of you. We're just very happy. I think that what we've done and what we put together actually is resonating so well with the audience. And, I mean, we all love the Mahabharata and we all want to see it in its full grandeur, without any fingers pointing at things like VFX or things of that sort. So, and it's something that I always wanted to see. I mean, though Mahabharata is only comparatively small part of the story visually, it was always the most exciting thing to see in full grandeur, because I think till now we've never really seen the Mahabharata epics in like the dramatic cinematic fashion.
Yeah. I mean, we for us, the visual is still very much Doordarshan and, that cardboard
Yeah.
and called literally swords and crowns. But tell me, growing up, what were your influences? What is the cultural influence that shaped an epic like this?
I think definitely a lot of cinema, like a lot of Telugu cinema, like growing up on TV, I used to see a lot of black and white Telugu cinema, which used to do a lot of these mythologicals. Like they used to have some interpretation of the Mahabharat stories or the Ramayana stories. So sort of grew up watching those. And later, when I was exposed to something like Star Wars, I was very fascinated because it looked like such a believable and rusted and real world. So that aesthetic was something I always enjoyed. And yeah, and then I think as the whole world and internet and everything blew up, then we just bombarded with all sorts of influences. But these two, I think, are the main things that were the core. I think for me when I wanted to make something like this.
What prompted you to do this? Because Mahanati again is an epic in its own way, and you've taken the story of one individual and told the story of Telugu cinema in many ways, Telugu and Tamil cinema. What prompted you to do this? To do Kalki?
I mean, I definitely felt very excited by the idea of the story, like just the idea of, for example, just reading about the immortals and somebody like an Ashwathama, and how his story feels unfinished. Like in the Mahabharata, yes, he committed a sin, and for
Right.
for that sin he was cursed. And in the Mahabharata itself, he walks away into the jungle after surrendering his gem. But we don't really know what happened after that. It feels like the story is unfinished, and and the same with the other immortals. The same with, we always say they're Dasavatara in our culture, but we don't know anything about the 10th one. So that also felt like a story that could be explored. So yeah, so just the idea, it's almost like fan fiction of Mahabharata. That's sort of what I'm doing, I
Absolutely. And
guess.
the idea that the avatar is coming and Sumati embodies it. I mean, it's also a certain cheekiness, and I think that is a playfulness, which is missing from the way we deal with our epics. We're so serious and also,
I,
careful, and we don't want to upset anyone. But it takes a playful imagination to do what you do.
thank you. Yeah, yeah. I mean, because I think especially this 10th avatar and the Kalki story allows us a little bit more freedom, I
Mm.
guess, as compared to the other epics, or like as compared to trying to interpret like the Mahabharata or Ramayana. This one definitely has a little more uh, a scope for imagination for sure.
Right. And of course, the eternal question, who was a better soldier, Karan or Arjun? And I think I love that again. That
Yeah.
again, you approached it with so much love and, yeah, I guess fan fiction. Talk a little about that.
I mean, more than the answer, the debate and the question itself is always so much fun. Whether
Yeah,
even in our films or even in yeah, I mean books, TV serials, whatever it is, like whenever you read about it, it's just so much fun to know because they're so evenly matched, and both great warriors and brothers essentially. So it's always that it's always a beautiful story and a beautiful comparison to have. So just the fact that people are discussing, debating, arguing, fighting over it right now feels great because that'll only allow them to explore more of the Mahabharata as a consequence.
right. So, how did Ashwin, you studied it or you were told the Mahabharat stories? Of course, you say you saw it, on
I
television.
I only had a basic understanding of it, like those abridged books and
Right,
TV serial and movies. But when I started the film, I got myself a proper 10 volume sort of Mahabharata and read most of it. I wouldn't even say it's massive, but yeah, that's how I probably learned or understood a little more about it.
right. Was that the Vivek Devroy translation
Yes,
or?
yes, yes. It was the Vivek Devra translation.
Yeah, I think that's the most,
That's the best one. It was suggested to me by my concept artist, who was like a real learned Mahabharat guy. So
right. Tell me a little about the inspiration for the Supreme Yaskin. I found him so fascinating. Tell me a little about him.
it I think it comes from this. It comes from the idea that one of the ideas was both Ashwathama and Supreme Yaskin were both sort of the oldest people in on Earth, and both were waiting
Right,
for this
right,
one thing to happen. And in a way, they have a parallel sort of story. Like even Shambala, to an extent, like Shambhala is waiting for this one thing to happen, and they're completely on faith. And
right,
Supreme Yaskin is also waiting for this one thing to happen, but it's completely through science. And when
right,
that thing happens, it's the same thing basically for both of them.
right.
So
And also,
yeah,
and also how much you say about where we are at as, as the as a planet. I mean, when you talk about the trees, when you talk about the air, when you talk about the rain, I mean, it's a dystopia that we're living in.
yeah, we are. I think some small ideas like people wearing masks outside or like oxygen parlors and food becoming fully synthetic. I mean, when we wrote this, we thought we were being dystopian, but that's happening right now. So
It's
yeah,
happening as we speak. So
yeah,
in a way, you're really foretelling us about what, and the
yeah, yeah.
importance of trees, Nag. I found that so fascinating. Talk a bit about that as well.
I think one of the core ideas of the film was fertility and life. It was that one of the last things that are going to go and is a thing of the Kali Yuga was, I thought, that wombs stop bearing life as easily, and the earth stops giving life as easily, and that would pretty much be the end of mankind.
Right,
So yeah, so what we see all around in the world under the complex is basically saying that the world's gone barren, and that's yeah, because we've sucked up the earth, we polluted the soil, all of that, and
right,
yeah. So fertility was a big theme.
right. Fertility, immortality. I think Yaskin embodies this whole desire of people to remain forever young and to go to
Right,
any extent to do so. I mean, there's so many themes which resonate with people, which I think is also the reason it's done so well globally as well. No?
right, right. For sure. I think globally, especially for the Indian diaspora, it's and even for the few reviews I'm seeing of the foreign press, it seems like uh, it's just a new experience because they've seen an Indian film, everything looks Indian, but it still looks new and it still
Yeah,
looks like we can't, I guess, really nitpick about the things we usually nitpick about Indian films, like whether it's lower quality graphics or some sudden breakaway to song and dance. Though I admit we did that a little bit, but yeah,
that was the fun sequence, I think, and I loved the
yeah,
dance steps as well. So, of course, Prabhas is the main driver of the film, and I think you made him look spectacular, very easily, identified as Bhairava. But all the little things are so much fun again, all your cameos, and how did you manage to convince the entire people across industries to do those things?
I think people are kind actually. I think people have been kind even in I think even in Mahanati,
Yeah.
uh, and even here, like because they know like what we're trying to do is something quite hard and difficult. They just want to pitch in and help in any way they can. So when I ask them if they can come in for a cameo, they're like more than help. They're more than willing because they're like, okay, fine, that's the easiest thing we can do. So yeah,
Because
they're just
the,
kind. Yeah,
the yeah, the two best were Rajamouli and RGV. I think the two
yeah,
cheapest ones. Did they
yeah,
write
yeah. The
themselves
theater.
themselves or you wrote them?
Yeah, the theater loved it. I think I personally enjoy seeing such sudden cameos in films. So I think that's why I end up trying to put them in.
So tell me, Nag, how long exactly did it take for you to write this? Because it seems so layered. I wonder, did you return to it again and again after a period
Yeah,
of time? It couldn't have
for
been
sure.
done
I think
at a stretch.
I mean it was done at a stretch, but there were so many drafts as things kept changing and moving around and evolving. And it was a very difficult script in its own way because, like you said, Mahanati was a single character and it was her life. So
Yeah.
there is a stronger line to follow. Here we have four main characters, and each of them are new, and the world is new, and the setup and the problems are new. So it always like you start with Ashwathama, but we can't continue with him. We have to find Bhairava, and then we have to show what Yaskin wants, and then we obviously Sumati is the core of everything. We have to go with her. So it was a challenging screenplay for sure.
And how do you work, Ashwin? Do you also storyboard everything, or how do you work with
We
your
we
technician?
storyboard we definitely storyboard all the action more than anything else. Some of the important scenes, but the action is completely storyboarded or stunt with and everything.
And then how does the CGI layer come in?
That's the last step. I think we start off with the storyboard and the stunt whiz, and then we end up shooting it the way we need to according to the scene or this requirement. And then in the end, once we edit it, we send it across to CG. So the VFX
But you
then
know
starts working.
exactly, but you know exactly where the CG is needed when you're shooting.
Yeah, we do for them. for the most part. Yeah, we
So
know what it
nothing
is,
is
and
by
then
accident.
no, it's not, because this particular movie just required so much concept art. Like we needed to pre-visualize and understand our worlds much before, like even we reached the CG stage. So it actually made things a little bit easier for CG, because every world had a concept art already, and like yeah.
And the last question, I was so intrigued by Shambala's world as well. I think it, for me, that was a mixture of all faiths, and I think that's again a very powerful message to send out to the world at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. For me, that was also one of my most interesting worlds to create, because I mean, we have Shambhala in popular culture as a magical kingdom where powerful mystical sages are living or hidden. But what I found more interesting about the Shambhala theory or the lore of it was that it's common in multiple cultures. Like the Tibetans have the same idea. In India, we have the same idea. The Persians have a similar idea. So all across the world, there is a similar thought process. So I felt that it makes sense. The way I interpreted it is that it makes sense that maybe it all comes together as a microcosm of the world in the end.
Absolutely. And the last question, Anag, what next? You've already shot, or you've already storyboarded the sequel, or how will it work now?
I've we've shot a very little of it, like about 20 days of it we've shot. But now we need to get into the storyboarding, the building, the planning of the whole thing. So it's a whole new production essentially. So it's like starting a whole new film again, because we almost don't see any of what is there right now. It's a whole new world. Yeah.
Right. And how many drafts did you do finally for Kalki 1?
Uh, Quite a few. I'd say about 11 or 12.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's okay. I thought it should be much more. Thank you
Yeah.
so
I
much.
think I stopped at J. Yeah. Anything.
Great. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure and all the very best. It's all the success is much deserved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you.